Welcome into a new edition of Inside the Huddle right here on High School Cube News. My name is Brian Chimino, once again with Mike Clark of the Sun-Times, Beth Long of Fox Sports, and Scout.com. Got a lot to talk about from Week 1, some big games and some big performances. And Mike, and probably the greatest performance of Week 1 was what Mother Nature did to us on Friday night with the lightning, the storms. A lot of games delayed and postponed to Saturday. Just read about them right here on highschoolcubenews.com. The quadruple header at Soldier Field. It got done so late, these guys are probably worried it's going to run into kickoff of the Bears this Sunday. But what was Saturday like?
It was an interesting day of football for sure. Mount Carmel started out against St. Pat's, and Mount Carmel came in as number 1 and did nothing to disprove that ranking. The Caravan looked like a talented, experienced team, which is what they are. They had a little bit of a hiccup at the beginning on offense. Had a touchdown called back, had a muffed punt also, or a muffed snap on a punt rather, but after that they just rolled and won 40-0. The second game was really one of the more entertaining games of the weekend, I thought. Some big prospects in that game between De La Salle and Phillips. Mikhail Wilbon, the De La Salle running back, is going to Vanderbilt. Jamarco Jones, who is one of De La Salle's top linemen, didn't play. He's not back from off-season surgery yet, but Aaron Roberts, who's another big-time lineman for De La Salle in that game. But really the surprise to me was Phillips. They had some athletes. It was a 51-48 game, which is probably a higher scoring game than we're going to see some during the basketball season this year. But I was really impressed with Phillips. They're a team to watch in the public league this year for sure. Then when we got to the final game, finally, after the college game, Tommy Mister made his debut for St. Rita. He was amazing. 400-plus yards of total offense between running and passing. He is going to be a really tough guy to defend this year because he's got the speed, he's got the elusiveness, he's got the arm to pass. He mentioned it too. A lot of people didn't think he could pass, but it looks like he is going to be, definitely a true dual-threat quarterback. So that was an entertaining game too.
And like you mentioned, Tommy Mister, one of the best performances of the week, 400-plus yards, 4 touchdowns. Also for Joliet Catholic, you wanted to talk about Michael Ivalo. He had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, again, he's another guy that got a little bit of a spotlight in the offseason. He dropped 20 pounds to get down to tailback weight as opposed to fullback weight. Huge performance against a really good Providence team. Looks like JCA is again going to be another team to watch in 5A, which is nothing new there.
A story that just recently broke within the last day or so, Beth. We're talking about Niles Morgan, the linebacker from Crete Moni. He had originally had his top 6, and now he's kind of backtracked on that a little bit.
Yes, he Sunday night announced his top 6, which were Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Florida, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Michigan State, the lone school from the Midwest, kind of thrown in there. Well, he decided Tuesday afternoon that that wasn't the case anymore, that in fact he'd made the decision too prematurely and too early, and he said, my recruitment is completely back open now. So, as of right now, that top 6 that Niles Morgan had narrowed his list down to is now back open to the list of 30-plus offers that he has, and I think that actually gives some Midwestern schools a chance to get back in this race.
All right, so before we get out of here on this edition of Inside Huddle, let's talk about some of the games we're going to see this Friday night, Mike. One that you have your eye on, Richards coming at 18 in your top 25. They're on the road at Batavia, who comes in at number 9.
Yeah, this is a really interesting matchup. These are both a couple of 6A, 7A teams, both expecting to have pretty good years. Batavia, of course, hasn't lost in the regular season since 2010. Richards, they think this is going to be their team. Interestingly, the team that Tommy Mister transferred away from, but they haven't lost very much, obviously. They've got a good quarterback still in Hassan Muhammad Rogers, so I really look forward to that matchup.
And a big matchup, again, for Maine South, really stacking that pre-conference schedule. Wheaton-Warrenville South, they had a big win. They moved up to 15 from 25. Maine South just dropping 1 spot to 16.
Yeah, I mean, Maine South could conceivably start 0-2, but it wouldn't surprise a lot of people to see Maine South go on a run. They're certainly a very capable team coming off a tough loss at Montini, but, in Wheaton South, looks like they may be back. They had a big win over Glenbard West in Week 1, so, this is always a great matchup.
And Beth, this weekend you're filling up the gas tank, going down I-55 to East St. Louis. Number 3, Loyola's playing down there, and number 5, Montini will be down there as well.
And they'll be taking on 2 teams that are also pretty highly rated, I believe, in pretty much everyone's entire state of Illinois rankings. It's O'Fallon and East St. Louis. O'Fallon and East St. Louis have no lack of Division I prospects on both rosters. The same for Loyola and Montini. The matchup that I'm really excited to see is Montini and East St. Louis, which is the nightcap game. Those 2 teams perhaps have the most talented rosters when it comes to future Division I guys in the entire state, and they're going head-to-head. So one of the matchups I'm excited to see is Dylan Thompson and Terry Beckner. Terry Beckner is a junior offensive and defensive lineman for East St. Louis, and as we've talked about before, Dylan Thompson is headed to Ohio State, so should be a pretty interesting weekend, certainly when it comes to a lot of those little matchups between teams that I don't get to see that often and don't match up that often.
So a lot of games this Friday. Hopefully they go off without a hitch. Cross your fingers for Mother Nature not being in a bad mood, and we get those games in on time. That'll do it for this edition of Inside the Huddle here on High School Cube News. My name is Brian Chimino, Mike Clark of the Sun-Times, Beth Long of Fox Sports, and Scout.com. Tune in next week for a new edition right here on High School Cube News.